Good people of the internet, Mark with Cardivox Academy here, and today we've got kind of an interesting video. So, as you know, or as you may not know, all of the videos are voted upon in the Cardivox Academy community Facebook page. That's how these videos get picked. And today's video is Shadow of Intent, which we have done before. However, in this song, there is Dickie Allen from Infinite Annihilator, and there is also Jason Evans of Ingested. So, that being said, I was like, at first I was like, I don't want to do Shadow of Intent again. We did them a little while ago. And then I was like, well, this is kind of a special thing. And it'll be an interesting way to sort of wrap up the year, right? Because it's a bunch of vocalists. Anyways, if you have videos that you want to see, feel free to jump on the Facebook community page. I did that versus a Patreon because it's free. Wanted everybody to be able to vote. And it's an easy way to keep track of it. Plus, everyone there is really cool. Lots of cool feedback, and I jump on there, as I can, a couple times a week and give people feedback as well. But let's go ahead. Let's just get right into it. I got my water here. Cheers. I got my spellbook cards because I left them here and I thought it looked cool, so I was like, let's keep it. But anyways, let's see what's going on here. I have heard all these vocalists individually, so we'll see how they work together. Let's go ahead and get started. I love that. That was cool. We could talk about that. So that was pretty neat. He started off with a guttural and then brought it lower, and then back up. And a lot of that's going to have to do with the length of your mouth and the spacing that you create inside of your mouth. So if I do a guttural here, and I want it to be lower, I can push my lip forwards and drop my jaw a little bit. And it's really easy to do as well. It's all about just creating as much space as possible inside of the mouth. So stuff like that, fairly easy to do once you've got the false chord sound down, but still very impressive. I really liked that. We're gonna listen to it again, and keep in mind, space, lips, because when we push our lips forward, what we're doing is think of your mouth as like a bottle, right? And if you've got a short little stubby bottle and you blow in it, it's gonna be, hoo, 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 higher notes. If you push your lips forward, you're lengthening the vocal tract. And if we have a bigger bottle and we blow into it, what do we get? Lower notes. So it's kind of the same thing. Pushing those lips forward, dropping the jaw, you're creating a bigger bottle to blow into. Sort of. I mean, you're not blowing air across it, it's coming through it, but it's the same concept. So let's hear that again and keep going. So we had 3 different vocal styles in there. Each that's interesting. The gutturals went like a lower each time. Ba, 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 ba. And now these kind of changed, each phrase kind of changed a little bit too. Let's play with that. Let's see what's going on here. You're going to get a lot of cheek puffing there. It's kind of how you're going to get that sound. Also kind of like a narrow opening. Now we're opening up the mouth a little bit, and we're keeping the cheeks a little bit more taut. Throwing maybe a little bit of that phonation in at the beginning, which you should not start off doing. That's a technique for later. Why? Did you hear that why? That why was big and open. Why? So we went from narrow and breathy to opening up more and less breathy. Very interesting. Pretty cool. All right, so there's a breakdown here, which I want to get into. So yeah, let's talk about those highs. A lot of people have trouble with highs. Highs are like a really difficult thing for a lot of people, I'm finding. And that's because most people start with lows, and then what they're trying to do is they're trying to pull their low into a high. I even see people sometimes, they'll do like a low, and then they'll do a high just by like tilting. They'll try to do a high by tilting their head back. All that's going to do is it's going to narrow your airway, right? So think of your airway as a hose. If you tilt the top, it's going to pinch right here. It's not going to help you get a high. So if I go, you hear how it kind of pinched it shut? Don't do that, by the way. But that allows you to hear it. My voice didn't get any higher, it just kind of got pinched shut. Not good. And it's going to pull your distortion down into your throat on top of your vocal folds. So just stay away from that entirely. Don't look up to get high notes. What you need to do to get high notes, made me kind of phlegmy. Yeah, don't do that. To get high notes, there are a couple things you can think of. One of the main things you can think of is you can think of pushing your scream up through your nasal cavity. We've talked about this before, but it's always going to be useful. Push your scream into your nasal cavity and think about screaming at your hard palate. Like, if there are any people who have done singing lessons out there, like normal singing lessons, you know, one image that's very common is to imagine a point at the back of the room and sing to that point to help you project. So you look at that point and you go, nah, right? With screaming, just got a text message. Time to put that phone on silent. With screaming, one thing we want to do is we can do that, but sometimes putting that visualization on our hard palate is a little bit more effective because that's where we need to put our resonance and our distortion. Yeah, right there like this. And when you really nail it, you'll feel all the distortion here, and you'll feel almost like wind buffeting across your lips, like a fan. You know, like the old school fans with the blades that we used to all do Darth Vader talking into. You'll feel sort of a similar feeling against the back of your lips. All right, let's get back into it. I love that kind of pattern. That is my, oh God. If there's one way to get me with metal, breakdowns are awesome. Love them. Obviously, I'm a big fan of vocals, but the pause into the blast beats with like that blackened sort of vibe, that's what does it for me. Oh, good Lord. I also liked the way he spat the word light. Let's go back a little bit and listen to that. So the nice thing about that word is it's all very tight and high. Light, forsake the light. So you can kind of push it over the pencil, so to speak, light into the front of the mouth, and then cut it right there with your tongue. Makes it very, very a very sharp, a very articulated word, and I thought it was neat. So sometimes people have difficulty with that too. So, you know, we've got our gutturals, which are really deep and kind of hard to understand. Right? Okay, there's that. But then there are these lows that are almost the same, but they're easier to understand. One thing you can do is, rather than, because with a guttural, there are different ways to do it, but the main way to do it, the way that you're going to find anywhere on the internet, is putting your tongue up behind the ridge behind your teeth. That's called the alveolar ridge. Right there, and kind of screaming past it. But with when I want to achieve a sound similar to this, what I do is I keep my tongue curled, but I don't touch the top of my tongue, and I pull it back a little bit. So instead of here, it's more here. Now, of course, I'm going to be moving my tongue up if I have an L or a T or a TH sound, right? But it allows it to open up more. So, like the difference between more and more so, like that tongue curled but not touching and a little farther back. That's my base point, that when I go to a vowel, that's where my mouth goes back to. And it allows me to have sort of that bigger low, if you will. We can hear it here. Kind of like that. Kind of like that. You remember last week? Oh, that's kind of an interesting little transition. Remember last week how we talked about different levels of compression? This, to me, sounds sort of like that mid-level, where you're not closing it up so much that it sounds like that, like toilet bowl, like metal vocal, but instead you're allowing the air to move a little bit more freely through. Just a gentle push through the vocal anatomy, using the diaphragm, of course. That's what I hear. Yeah. I paused it at just the right time. Oh, man. So that was cool. That, like, really high, thin, gurgly guttural after those lower, less compressed lows. Oh, a mere discrepancy is, I think, what he said here. That is admittedly a tougher sound to make. Because with like a normal guttural, we've talked about this in the Phil Bozeman video. In a normal guttural, you're saying kind of like your bass vowel shape is kind of like an it's kind of like an or something. With this, it's still a low, but it's your bass sound is an e or an I. And then with your tongue, you know, you don't necessarily want to do the guttural, but you can kind of put it up against your teeth like this. And smile around it. Kind of like that. It's a tougher sound to make, though. Like, admittedly, it is. Ooh, I heard Dickie Allen back there. Pfft, come on. His high, and just watch, I'm wrong. But it sounded like him. His highs, just that goblinoid high. They would have him say word infancy, would they? Those cheeky goobers. I remember one time I had a conversation with somebody about how metal can be elegant, and they were like, "You're crazy." And that is an example of what I mean. Like this, it's aggressive, it's powerful, but there's elegance. There's certain, it's kind of delicate in a way. The piano over the consistent, right? The consistency of the drums. It's not very acrobatic, but it's creating this wall of sound, and it's very meditative. I love that. I do want to talk about, I did come back for a reason. I did want to talk about the way he says pestilence, because that's a very valuable thing. This is a great example of closing your mouth around a vocal. So nothing's changing here. You're doing all the work with the front of your mouth. He says, and we'll hear it here, but he says, pestilence. You see, I didn't change anything in here. I didn't jut my larynx down. I didn't do anything crazy with my jaw. I didn't put any tension up here. It's just closing around the front of the mouth. Easy peasy. Oh my god, I love that section so much. All right, so let's talk about that. First of all, that was brutal as hell. Now, we all have heard the argument, why do you listen to metal? You can't even understand what you're saying. And instead of being upset at those people, understand that things like this are an example of that. Now, obviously, I do vocals for Viremia. Well, I did in glioblastoma, and we're going to be writing more stuff, and that's a very slammy band. So I'm totally fine with this. I have no problem with this. Man, that's cool. Because basically what you do is it's more about the emotion and the sound of what you're saying than the words themselves. And for people who aren't into that, it's just going to be confusing. So you just kind of say, hey, different strokes are different strokes. But basically what you do is you articulate the syllables, right? I think it sounds amazing. And sometimes, like, when things slow down, like, you just need to get brutal. I know it's a cliche, but, like, you got to get brutal sometimes, y'all. If you're not, there are certain sections where if you're not screaming in such a way that makes you like want to, I don't know, eat a bowl of nails, maybe get a little lower. I don't know. Let's hear it. Eat a bowl of don't eat nails. Do not eat nails. That was a joke. For that, it's a lot of tight chicken butt mouth and moving it back and forth between an ooh and an e. That's I mean, there it is. You can push the tongue forward to get more of that like sickly sound, so you got your normal guttural. Right? You can bring out the mouth. Just play around. Get weird. If you're me and you got whiskers, you can pull on your cheeks. My videos get weird, folks. That's the point where somebody's gonna walk in. You're gonna be watching this, and somebody's gonna walk in the room, and they're just gonna see like this chubby dude with a dad haircut going, and they're gonna worry about you. Hey, let's keep going. All right, folks, we got to talk about Dickie Allen's highs. I'm sorry. I just love them so goddamn much. So, here's the thing. Right. So, there are different types of highs you can do, of course. So, like, if you listen to my main band, Kardashev, you'll find, honestly, pretty consistent highs. My highs are pretty much the same all the time. Right here, like this! That's what I do. But if you want to do something more like Sinister, like this, you can crank back on the air, add a little bit of impedance of the airflow with the back of the tongue and the soft palate, right? Like we talk a lot about raising the soft palate, so there's just more room for resonance and distortion. But if you're like a pro at holding your resonance up high, you can actually bring it down and get it close to the tongue, and essentially you get more of like a. There's very little space between the back of my tongue and the nasopharynx. That can be difficult for a lot of people because you really have to hold that posture. Too close and you sound like you're choking. Too far and you don't have the effect. So, bringing those things together. It's pretty easy, pretty safe to say that's what he's doing here. Although, dude's got some weird techniques that he just kind of came up with. So, you know. As long as he's not hurting himself, it doesn't sound like he is. It sounds like everything's placed perfectly. And then you throw that tunnel. The poison! The poison! The poison! I love how he throws those tunnels in. And if you got the whiskers, throw the whiskers into your tunnel. Makes it just dirty. That was really wild. That was really wild. The way he said immortalized was wild. Let's hear it again. Was that a guttural at the beginning? Like, I feel like when I listen to metal vocalists, 90% of the time I know exactly what's going on. Dickie Allen, he does stuff and I have to like listen to it 4 times because I'm like, what the hell is he even doing? I swear, the dude like dug into a cave, found some ancient arcane tome, made a pact with, I don't know, Beelzebub, and now he's got vocals like this, which I highly support. Make your pact. Do what you gotta do. We're all warlocks here. So, it sounds like it's one of those like higher. Sounds like he's starting with that high, tight guttural we've talked about a little bit. Kind of like right there. I don't know if you really can call that a guttural, but to me it feels kind of similar. And then he opens up into the eye. Then he does what we talked about with the back of the tongue and the roof of the mouth, creating that sort of like a goblinoid distortion. And then there might be a tunnel at the end. That's about as close as I can get because I'm not entirely sure what he's doing. We'll listen to it again. We'll keep going. Yeah, there was a tunnel in there. That was nuts. Y'all, that was nuts. Like, that was insane. So one thing I want to mention, we don't have to go back, but with a lot, let's go back. So there's this one section in the end where he's kind of like almost barking out his lows, and I just want to show you what that looks like, okay? Because we all know what it sounds like. This part, harnessing the power within. So when you do that, a lot of people I get in the classroom and a lot of people, that do these sorts of things, what they do is they hold the vocal folds closed, build up subglottal pressure underneath, then their glottis pops open. And if you do too much of that, it's not that that's inherently bad, but when you're doing vocals like this, if you are building up tons and tons and tons of subglottal pressure, basically air underneath your vocal folds, and just pushing against them until they can hold no longer, and then they pop open, you can rupture stuff. But you can achieve almost the exact same effect by just holding them open, getting your vocal anatomy in the position that you need for that sound, and then just using your diaphragm to just squeeze air through there. Da, da, da. And I'll show you here. I'm gonna tip the camera. I'm sorry, my place is a mess. Christmas has had us. The holidays. Oh, sorry. There we go. So I'll kind of sit up a little bit, but it's kind of hard to do it when you're sitting, but I really think this is important. Let me lean back a little bit. So right here. So I'm going to take the breath in. You're going to see basically pretty neutral shoulders, pretty neutral chest. Now, when you're sitting, it's kind of impossible to keep your chest from moving a little bit too much, but bear with me here. You're going to see my ribs come out, and you're going to see my diaphragm expand. What I'm doing is I'm pushing air through the vocal anatomy. I'm not having to pop it out with my vocal folds, and it has a nice punch. So like right here in the diaphragm. You see how like my fingers kind of come in? So like, I don't know the exact pattern that it does here, but so all that, I just kind of ad-libbed at the end there because I don't have the song memorized or anything. But that's essentially what I was doing. I was holding everything still, everything relaxed, not a lot of tension here, and I was just using my diaphragm, holding the ribs out and just pushing the air I needed through the vocal system. That's essentially what we're doing here. We don't need to be barking and punching everything out. Sorry if I got a little quiet. I was rolled away. But anyway, Shadow of Intent. The Catacombs, featuring Jason Evans and Dickie Allen. Awesome song. Really enjoyed that. And, thank you all for hanging out. I appreciate it. Oh my gosh, y'all. I almost forgot to do the Cardavox Academy Community Facebook page feature. That is a tongue twister. But every week, we get a lot of submissions from members of the community, and they're all really cool. And I like to pick one that I particularly enjoyed and feature it at the end of my reaction videos. Let me get this microphone in a better spot. Here we go. Okay, so this week I wanted to talk about my boy Alexander. I've talked to him a little bit before. He submitted to the Never Breath vocal contest that we had a while ago. He's a super stellar vocalist of a band called Aeon, which I will link here. But here he does some Benn Duerr vocals, which I thought was appropriate, but also he does them very well. 27 seconds long. We're gonna listen to it, and we're gonna see what's going on here. So let's check it out. Look at that intense stare. Oh, there it is. Ooh, here we go. Let's turn up that volume a little bit and start that over. Get a little bit more love going. Here we go. I will not kiss my mother of the new land. Super sick. So some of the things I really liked about that were number one, you had really awesome breath control. Like there's this myth, and I talk about it. There's this myth that you can't hold out vocals very long with false chord. Sounded false chord to me, and at the end you held it out really well. Also, that pig squeal that high, like you did it really nicely. Better than I could, honestly. I've never spent a lot of time on the pig squeals, but you killed it. Really, everything was great. The only thing I would say, just constructively, is you could probably get a little bit more stank out of your tunnels, especially in the second section. Yeah, so that really focus on. There are two ways to do it. My favorite way has lately become the taco tongue, where you just do this, right? But you tuck the tongue on the insides of the teeth, and you can stick your tongue out, or you can brace it on the bottom teeth. So they would sound like this, or and you can always do this, right? But don't hold back on that tongue placement. You don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to push very hard. You don't have to strain. But you can really get those tunnels sounding really gurgly. But everything else was amazing. Good job. Thank you for submitting. Keep it up. That's about all I have for today. I thought I had a bunch of other announcements, but I can't think of anything. So with that, again, feel free to check out the Facebook community page. Many thanks to all of you for your support. The channel is growing quickly, and I'm excited, and it's awesome. Beyond that, many thanks. Much love. I punched my microphone, and I'm out.